I hope everybody out there is enjoying a cool, cold, but rather comfortable night here. It is almost 11 o'clock here in southwest Pennsylvania. You are listening live to another podcast of Real Steel Sports with your host, the one, the only, Mr. James Krishnari. Today was a fun day for me. It was our school's dodgeball tournament. We have it once every semester, and my team finished in second. I really enjoyed playing, and I had a lot of fun doing it. All that I'm going to say is that my arm is so sore from just wailing dodgeballs. But hey, it's worth it. It's totally worth it. But actually, I would take that back. But back to what I was talking about. It is almost the halfway point in the NFL. We have reached the 8th week of the 2013 season. It's been a very interesting year. We've had teams do well that we thought would do well. Teams do bad that we thought would do bad, and vice versa. All I can say is that it's always been a pleasure watching the NFL conduct its business on the field, even though sometimes I seriously think that the people who run the NFL are about as smart as the monkeys from the old Career Builder commercials. But besides the point, let's get to some picks. Tomorrow night, or if you listen to this on Thursday night tonight, in Tampa Bay, we have the Carolina Panthers 3-3 at Tampa 0-6. You'd be a fool to pick Tampa in this game, honestly. I'm on ESPN's Pick'em, and 90% of the people pick Carolina. I didn't even know 10% of 10% of people who actually won ESPN even knew who the Buccaneers were, let alone were a fan of them, predicting them to win. I mean, come on. Let me put it to you this way. I don't think that Carolina's going to lose this game. I know it's division rivalry. I know I said it last week when I was like, division rivals, the Steelers beat the Ravens. Bit of a different story. The Steelers and the Ravens are more closely matched than this game is. Carolina and Cam Newton win all the way. Newton, the last 2 games, has just been unbelievable. Panthers have won big, and the Bucks have 31st in the league in points and yards. Give me Carolina. Buffalo at New Orleans. It doesn't matter if Jimmy Graham plays this game. He can take the week off. Drew Brees has 4 or 5 guys that can just dissect the Buffalo Bills defense without him. Robert Mitchell, Marcus Colston, Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas, Kenny Stills. The list goes on and on and on and on. Nick Toon. They can just destroy teams. Saints all the way. Bills have a backup quarterback too, and that's not going to help them. Next game we have Cleveland at Kansas City. And this is going to be an interesting game because of the fact that I think Cleveland is an underrated team. I do. Sorry, I'm just making some notes for my show here and replying to a couple people who are messaging me live. I would just like to point out that the Browns' defense is not that bad. But if you're going to be a good team, both parts of your team need to be decent. Not just half. And that's the reason right now that the Chiefs are going to absolutely blast and improve to 8 now. Because Cleveland, they're starting Jason Campbell quarterback. Now, is he an improvement over Brandon Weeden? Yes. Anybody is at this point. But seriously, Kansas City with that defense, Tom Bahali, Justin Houston, Eric Berry, Brandon Flowers, beastly defense. Kansas City all day long. Next game on our list, Dallas at Detroit. And a matchup of 2 4-3s. This is going to be an interesting game because of the fact you've got 2 teams with quarterbacks that wear number 9 that have both had some good performances in games, but have also let their teams down at crucial moments. Both teams with talented number 1 wide receivers. Both teams with defenses that can make some splash plays, but in general are just adequate pretty much. To put it this way, I think this is a game that's set up for Detroit to rebound from the game against Cincinnati because Dallas's pass rush, especially without DeMarcus Ware, who probably will miss his second straight game with an injury, I don't think that Dallas's defense has as much sting without him there. I mean, Anthony Spencer's already gone. You can't afford to lose Ware for much of the year. Even though I think Dallas will win the NFC East regardless, but that's a different story. If Detroit wants to keep pace with Green Bay in the NFC North, they have got to start, winning some home games, like winning their home games. I mean, yes, they've only lost one game at home and lost two on the road this year, but the game last week against Cincinnati was a game they let get away. If Stafford gets 60 yards on that final drive, that sets him up for a field goal by David Akers. They win that game. And it would have put the Steelers one game closer in the AFC North, so that's another reason I have to complain about that. But anyways, Dallas is a team I think that this year is a little bit better than they were last year. I mean, they're 4-3 right now. Their schedule is not that tough the rest of the way. But I think Detroit gets the win because I think they take advantage of Dallas' secondary, which I still don't think is that good. Both these teams are similar. In fact, they can semi-run the football. They've got really good quarterbacks who are number 9, who've been kind of overrated and underrated by many people. Offensive lines, I don't think they get the credit they deserve. Pass rushes that are pretty effective and dominating front sevens, but their secondaries are average. Let's put it this way. I give the advantage to the Lions because of coaching. As much as I dislike Jim Schwartz, and I think he's one of the worst coaches in the league, he's a better coach than Jason Garrett. I mean, come on. If you're the coach for the Cowboys, you're essentially a puppet for Jerry Jones. Give me the Lions. Next game is Miami at New England. Miami, of course, they started off 3-0, but they've lost their last 3 games, including last weekend against Buffalo Bills, who's starting Thad Lewis at quarterback. So I don't think Miami's as good as we thought we were. Thought they were. But New England, I don't think is that good either. I mean, think about it. You have Aaron Dobson and Kendall Tompkins as your wide receivers. You've got, in addition to that, you've got on the defense, you've got Vince Wilfork, your best defensive player, and the only defensive player you have remaining from your last team to win a Super Bowl in New England, gone for the year with an injury. You have... Sorry if I'm making noise. I'm trying to adjust my computer here. You've got Gerard Mayo, your 2008 draft pick, who's just been a beastly inside linebacker since the first day he stepped on the field. He's gone for the year now, too. They got some problems up in New England. I mean, their front seven has lost the two best guys they've got. I know it's next man up, but eventually next man up just means you're eventually going to start pulling truck drivers and rednecks off the side of the road because these guys may be good, but they're not good enough to play this consistently good in the NFL. I don't care how good of a coach Belichick is. But I do like them to beat Miami this week because they're at home and because Tom Brady historically has owned the Dolphins. Give me the Patriots. Now we have an all-NFC East showdown. New York Giants and Philly Eagles. Giants finally get their first win, improve to 1-6. Eagles lose against Dallas to fall 3-4. I like the Giants in this game. I like the Eagles, regardless who starts at quarterback, because I think the Giants got really lucky that Freeman was really bad on Monday night. He was terrible. But they're not going to get that same kind of luxury, regardless of whether it's Nick Foles or Michael Vick or even Matt Barkley for the Eagles who starts at quarterback. And while Vick will more than likely go with this game because he's been out the last few games with a hamstring, I think that he's going to have a good game because the Giants' pass rush is not where it used to be 3-4 years ago. It's not dominant and doesn't scare people. JPP and Justin Tuck don't have as many sacks as they did, and they're just not getting the pressure they need to win games. I like the Eagles to win. I like LaShawn McCoy to have a big game on the ground. The final 1 o'clock game will be Jacksonville hosting San Francisco. I apologize for my pause. I'm just trying to think of a way I can talk about this game and sound interesting. There isn't. San Francisco clobbers them. They improved to 6-2. Jacksonville falls to 0-8. It's kind of funny. I was listening to one of the radio shows this morning on my way to school, And I was listening to, they were talking about, the Jaguars and the '08 Lions and which team was worse. And I think the 2013 Jaguars are a worse team because, let's put it this way, the 2008 Lions, they could score a couple points a game. They were averaging 17 points a game, which is, terrible still, but, they could put up some points on people. But if you look at this 2013 Jaguar team, their offense is just downright horrendous. They're giving up almost as many points per game, and they're scoring 10.9 points per game. The quarterback position is occupied by two guys who have a combined 3 touchdowns and 12 picks. A running back who used to be elite, Maurice Jones-Drew, started 7 games and has 45 yards a game. In fact, the only bright spot in this team, honestly, there really is none. They're just an absolutely miserable football team. I think they're worse than Detroit was. San Francisco wins big. The Jets and the Bengals, the first 4 o'clock game, and I know I did this last week and I got lucky, but I think I'm feeling the luck again. I like the Jets to go into Cincy and beat the Bengals, and I'll tell you why. For one, the Bengals lost Leon Hall, their best corner of the season, for the torn Achilles. That's going to hurt them on the back end, especially if they get guys like Holmes back, and they've got receivers that can fly, like Stephen Hill and Jeremy Curley. They've got some decent playmakers on offense, a couple of them. Number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals this year have been susceptible to pressure. Because if you look at so far this year, at the teams that have given up the most sacks, since he's given up 15 in 7 games, they're on pace to give up almost 40. And, I know a lot of teams have given up more sacks, but the thing about it is this. Andy Dalton's getting pressured a lot, too. He got pressured so much in that game against Detroit. I mean, A.J. Green can't keep bailing him out, especially against, that Jets front 7, which has been monstrous this year, with Muhammad Wilkerson and, Sheldon Richardson, that absolutely gave Tom Brady nightmares last Sunday. I like the Jets to go into Cincy, get a win. Following that game will be a game featuring 2 old rivals, one of them chasing the Bengals in the north. My 2-4 Pittsburgh Steelers heading out west to take on the 2-4 Raiders. I know the last time the Steelers have gone to Oakland, it's not been pretty. They lost in 2006 and they lost last season. But I'm putting those behind me. Because I think the Steelers are finally starting to get it. I think they're finally starting to understand what they can do with their core group of guys. It's taken them a while, absolutely. But I think they're finally starting to freaking get it. And I hope so, because I'm tired of this team, underperforming. They won the last 2 games, did not score more than 19 in each particular game, and now they're playing a Raiders defense which is far inferior to the Jets or, the Ravens. Steelers win this game, and the Browns lose to Cleveland. The Browns lose to Kansas City. Steelers are 3-4, and it will be tied and we have a tiebreaker for second in the AFC North. I like Pittsburgh to win this game because, in fact, I think that Pittsburgh's going to win this game pretty decently because they're playing against Jeanette native Terrell Pryor at quarterback, and he's had to beat teams with his legs a lot this year. He had a couple of good games with his arm, particularly against San Diego, but San Diego's 5 turnovers contributed there. I don't think that he can win a quarterback duel with Ben Roethlisberger. I like the Steelers to get a win. Besides, Terrell Pryor has never played the Steeler. He doesn't know what their zone blitz package is like. And the fact that Brett Keys and Lawrence Timmons should go will be helpful to the black and gold. Following that will be one of 2 games on Fox, Atlanta and Arizona. And I'm taking Atlanta because I know both teams, believe it or not, I don't think anybody predicted that 8 weeks into the season Atlanta would have one less win than Arizona. But 2-4 Atlanta, 3-4 Arizona. I'm going with Atlanta because they have Matt Ryan. They still have, guys like Harry Douglas who made plays on Sunday when they beat the when they took out the Bucks. Steven Jackson, I don't know if I'm going to check his status. He is getting closer to return. Not sure if he's going to play, though. But Arizona has Carson Palmer quarterback, and Palmer's turnover prone, and I think he'll have a bad day with turnovers against the Falcons because this Atlanta defense is good at getting some takeaways. Now we have Washington going to play Denver. Denver rebounds from the loss against Indy by putting up a hell of a lot of points on Washington. If you are a fantasy football owner and you've got Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas, Wes Welker, Noshawn Marino, Peyton Manning, any of those guys, or even their kicker, this is the week to play it because they're playing a Washington Redskins defense that has not been able to stop much of anybody this year. I mean, we just saw, even after Jay Cutler went out for the Bears, they still give up points to Chicago. 30th in points allowed, 25th in yards allowed, 29th against the run. Denver's going to have a field day with them. I know RG3's working his way back and is starting to play some better football. But for my money, Denver at home, damn hard to beat. Now we got Sunday night. Green Bay going to Minnesota. Minnesota will be down to probably Matt Castle at quarterback, and Green Bay will be playing a Super Bowl MVP at quarterback. Minnesota looked terrible, undisciplined, erratic, everything against Green Bay, against New York on Monday night. And they're supposed to recover that with a day less than normal week rest. The normal, rest you get from game to game. Yeah, right, fat chance. Rodgers in the pack, slice them up. Packers win. And then the Monday night game, Seattle at St. Louis. If Sam Bradford's playing, maybe I give St. Louis a couple extra touchdowns, but he's not. He's gone for the year with the torn ACL. They're going to have a hard time throwing the football. I'll tell you this. Seattle's, I think, starting to turn the corner. They had a decent game against the Cardinals. They got a long rest. Seattle wins big. I think 31-7 is a good score because that's my final score because I have to do the score for the weekly pick'em. And now it's time for one of my favorite segments, my 5 bold predictions. You guys ready? Bold prediction number 1. The Pittsburgh Steelers will run for 200 rushing yards in Oakland. And that's far-fetched, all things considered, with their running game. But I'm picking to do that because it's not that Oakland's so bad against the run. When you go on the road, you take your defense and your running game. And I know Pittsburgh, they've started to get more penetration up front, the point of attack with their big uglies up front. I look for them to do that again. My next prediction may not be as bold because he's already done it this year, but I think Geno Smith throws 3 touchdowns against the Bengals. That kind of is bold, but in a way it's not. But the reason why I'm sticking it as bold because I think a lot of people are predicting a low-scoring game where they really struggle. They have trouble against the Bengals front 7. I don't think it's going to be too big of an issue. I think they'll be able to generate some points, and I think they'll be able to score enough to win. My third one is that Peyton Manning will have a perfect passer rating against the Redskins. If you can lose Jay Cutler and still put up points against an NFL defense, do you know what Peyton Manning's going to do to that defense? He's just going to slice and dice it. No doubt about it. My fourth bold prediction, and this one's really going out on a limb. Even though his team's bad and he's done a bad job coaching, I think Greg Schiano goes after this weekend. I do. I think that Carolina's going to kick Tampa Bay so bad that Tampa Bay's ass so bad that they let him go. Think about it. Just think about it for a second. The Bucs are 0-6 now. You might as well try to salvage what they can with the rest of their roster, and then maybe do some purging in the offseason. But here's the thing about it: they're just going so far backwards. Tampa Bay is. It's not even funny. It really isn't even funny. And my fifth bold prediction for this week. Matt Stafford and Tony Romo will throw for 400 yards apiece. In the game between each other. My logic behind that? Not that many great pass defenders they have, so it's going to be awfully tough for them to play some pass defense. Let me tell you that. And I really, really like the idea of, both Romo and Stafford having big days, because I just don't really think more or less that I just don't really think more or less that they're going to have defensive stops in this game. I think it's going to be a track meet. I think the fact that the Bengals had a good pass, Bengals had a decent front four, I think was a little bit of an equalizer whenever the Lions played the Bengals last Sunday. And I think the fact that the Cowboys in general were out of sync in Philly, I think kind of hurt them. But I think what goes without saying is that Detroit's defense and Dallas's defenses are not that great, and it's going to be awfully tough to make stops. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed my show for the night. I hope you did. I enjoyed doing it. I got to reply to some of your questions on here. In fact, actually, one of the questions was asked by Robert Smith, and his question was, "What do I think of the Kansas City Chiefs, and do I think they're for real?" I think they're for real on defense. I don't think they're so much for real on offense, because they've got some kinks to work out. Alex Smith's still learning Reid's system in a way, and I think that's going to take a while. But once Alex Smith starts putting up better numbers, I think then they'll be better. My next question came from Julius Heisenbach. That's a weird name, Heisenbach. Okay. His question was, do I really think Schiano could get fired this weekend? I'm like, hell yeah, I can get fired. Think about it. If Tom Landry can get fired, if Paul Brown can get fired, then Greg Schiano can get fired. It doesn't matter if it's midseason or not. Think about it. The dude's done nothing in the last 2 years but be detrimental to his team. In fact, I don't even know why Greg Schiano was even hired in the first place. He wasn't that good a college coach. I mean, his career at Rutgers was 68-67. He had 3 seasons where he cracked 9 wins as a coach in college. Now, that doesn't translate as a coach who's going to come in and fix everything up in the NFL. No. There's nothing special he brings to the table. except losing and inadequacy. I would never hire him for my team. I have a few more questions I'll answer. The next question is from by a Derek Hayward, and he wants to know what I think of the Packers' chances of going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. They're very incomplete on the defensive side of the football. They don't have the kind of bite they used to have with the turnovers and the sacks, and which is coincided with the loss of Charles Woodson to Oakland. But I think in the long run, what the biggest problem with this team is the fact that their receivers are just dropping like flies. I mean, Jordy Nelson's the only really good healthy receiver they have. Cobb's out, Jones is out, Finley's out. Your receivers are dropping like flies. That's their problem. And unless they get these guys back, they're not going to be able to contend at all. And I think even right now, healthy, I think there's 3 or 4 teams in the NFC better than Green Bay. Seattle, I put New Orleans, I put San Francisco. And quite honestly, I don't even think they're the best team in their division. I think a healthy Jay Cutler in the Chicago, I think a Bears team with a healthy Briggs and a healthy Cutler is better than Green Bay. Because they've got more, while they may not quite be as potent offensively, even though they've got more, weapons, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, still look at their defense. Chicago's got a legitimate defense. Green Bay doesn't. All right, another question is from a... let's see. I'm just browsing through here. Steve Clark. And Mr. Steve Clark wants to know, if Pittsburgh keeps winning, what do I think of their chances in their division? Depends on what you're looking at. Because look at the Bengals' schedule the rest of it. They're 4-2, and I'm predicting them to lose against the Jets. So it's 5-3. They'll probably beat Miami. That's 6-4. They'll lose in Baltimore 6-5. Beat Cleveland 7-5. Lose in San Diego 7-6. Lose against the Colts 7-7. Lose at Pittsburgh 7-8. They have the potential to lose a lot of games in this stretch. This is a key stretch for them. Miami's not even a guaranteed win, and Baltimore at home isn't either. Neither is Pittsburgh. They can talk about how they beat us the Steelers in Pittsburgh all they want. Not looking very good for them in beating them in Pittsburgh. They beat us in their own house. Doesn't mean they're going to beat us in Pittsburgh. But the Steelers' schedule going forward is, not exactly that much better. The best potential I see out of this team is they could potentially win 10 games. Potentially. A lot of these games are losable, but the way this team is starting, I think, to figure it out, I think that 0-4 start might actually have done them some good. Because a lot of them do some soul searching for that bye week, and then they've been really hungry to play the last few weeks. I think that Pittsburgh can win the division. Would I go out and say they will? No. It's going to be tough. All right, that is officially my show for today. And, well, actually, one more question. What do I rate the Jaguars? This is from a Marcus McNeil. He wants to know what I think of the Jaguars' chance of going 0-16. Get ready to have the first overall pick in the draft. That's all I'm going to say. My show for today is over. Hope you enjoyed it. See you guys again soon.